Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. We have to find a beginning of where our interest in Dhamma and awakening or truth or clarity arises. We can't really find it in history. We find it in the quality of faith, or saddha. Sometimes the Pali words are easier, they don't carry all the nuances and resonances of the English terms. But faith, or saddha, is kind of sense intuitive, irrational, if you like, sense something better, something fuller, something more complete, something peaceful, sacred, that's available somewhere. And I can get a sense of that. I'm out for that. I'm interested in that. I've got a sense that's possible. So this is where when I say the religious impulse comes from, faith in God or faith in, teachers and so forth. Although most teachers would say, well, you can have respect for me, but you have faith in the Buddha. Which means really the awakening quality. Not just the personality, the awakening quality. And Dhamma teachings, but again, sometimes the teaching's mysterious. Can't quite understand it. We say faith in there is a path and a fruit. Sangha, well, people, but definitely not yes and no. It's the aspiration, the commitment vehicle, the purity as it's being enacted by human beings. So Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. So just discerning the conventional from something more fulfilling. Just distinguishing what we might say the mundane, or that which can be described, that which can be written about, talked about, people we can know and see and comment on, to something that we never quite really can capture because it's beyond. And that's fine, that's the way it should be. Because we want to open to it, we don't want to just grab it and claim it. And that's the problem with all religions. So claiming, grabbing at some deity or scripture, and then sooner or later, quite often sooner, conflict starts happening. That's what happens with grabbing, even the grabbing the most beautiful things. So we say, just, well, if we're not operating through grasping, grabbing, accumulating something, and the faith is a kind of opening, and that some sense, if I can place that truth will be revealed. We don't find it, it reveals itself. It's unconditioned, in other words. It's not about me making it, getting it, figuring it. I can form those opinions, those attitudes, those approaches. I can have my systems and techniques, and I have my teachers and scriptures and books, but, they're only going to point to something I can't ever really grasp. And that's the way I want it. It keeps me fresh and open, and sensitive, and, unfinished. I want that openness. Otherwise I just get lost in my own stuff. So faith in, you could say, faith in the unconditioned. Not graspable. And the condition for this, one of the primary conditions for this is just the disillusionment with everything else. Or seeing the limitations of everything else. Or, in fact, sometimes extreme despair. And, quite a lot of looking in the histories, quite a lot of the people who realised awakening came from some pretty horrific tragedies and traumas and grief and frustration and confusion and anguish. But still, somehow you've got to get beyond this. So as it said, dukkha is a condition for the arising of faith. Dukkha, unfortunately, is only a condition because it's not always the case that when people suffer they get faith. Sometimes they just get vengeful and miserable, depressed. It's your fault. Something wrong with me or something like that. No. So it doesn't always happen. But it's a condition. It's not an inevitable cause. It's a root condition. Then there's that turning away from, it's okay, but not in, that's okay, but that's not really, So sometimes it's not exactly miserable, just as much as it only goes so far, and then, then doesn't quite reach it. The unreachable, the unresolved, the incomplete, the partiality, is all the dukkha. It's not conditions are never completed. And when this faith potential is strong in people, it seems to be a primary condition. Some people have, chittas, their hearts have a lot of that capacity. Some people have limited. Then there's that sense of go to open out of conditions. It's to not be grasping at them and not be grasped by them. Because we can always kind of imagine that we do all this grasping, but actually some of it's just a mechanism, it's a reflex. It happens. Security, want a position, have to hold on, feel vulnerable. Understandable. So something clamps. Hold on to a belief, hold on to a fundamentalism, hold on to a sense object, hold on to an idea, hold on to your self-image. And that goes on a lot. And that because, citta just can't manage to open. Doesn't have the capacity yet. It's too frightened, too vulnerable, too unfulfilled. So that has to be understood with compassion. So we have some faith, where there is the faith potential. It needs to be supported and nourished to know itself. The beauty of this is this in a way, saddha can be seen as the origin. It's also, in a way, the almost the mark of the finality of the path. Have supreme confidence. A feeling of complete confidence. That's it. No shaking, no wavering, no doubt. Not trembling, not knocked over, not disappointed, not disillusioned by conditions, because as such that the faith has ripened the extent to which the citta has become extremely steady and free from grasping. As it said, this is the deathless, the citta that's released from grasping. Bearing in mind that grasping is not necessarily a voluntary decision, it's a reflex. When something the citta just can't bear, openness, it's too, because it's sensitive. We get defensive, close in, hold on. This has to be understood with, some compassion and some, reality. It's not just you can stop grasping. As I said, the whole mechanism of the mind, of feeling, of consciousness, of perception, is affected by grasping. It's called the khandhas, the upadana khandha. They're profoundly affected, open to, sensitive to, hair triggered to hold on. And so that can be, and that process can be extreme, built up. Some places we feel pretty open, that's fine. Other places everything suddenly clamps. You must have known this yourself. Get reactive. No blame. Doesn't do any good. To cultivate, to understand, to really look into how is the grasping happening, what's the response to that, what blocks us from access to the unconditioned, what grabs us, what grasps us. Fear. Fear of being overwhelmed, fear of pain, fear of being hurt, fear of getting lost, fear of being smothered. Need, I really have to have something to fill me up. So then we say, well, okay, we can meet those needs in a healthier way. And really this is the cultivation, which we can see in certain aspects. One is just that which does give a certain sense of fulfillment, stability, comfort, steadiness. Well, these are called samatha practices, steadying practices, nourishing practices. And these will then, as the citta feels more steady, it will then begin to see more clearly without these reactions. As insight. You don't actually do insight. You do the steadying, the easing, the nourishing, the calming, the gladdening. And the citta begins to open up and it sees. That's the way it's described. And when there is jnana dassana, when the clear seeing is dependent upon samadhi, mind feeling settled and composed. And of course you can get into all the technical details of that, but that's primarily settling so that the citta will open by itself, see for itself. It doesn't have to be me doing something about it. So they may have this kind of, somewhat seemingly paradoxical. This, eventually it's about not doing, just opening, seeing, that the citta can know for itself. Heart, sensitivity can know for itself. But in order to be able to do that, for that to happen, there has to be some repairing and sustaining and cultivating to get the citta into a healthy state condition. So we come to meditation, apart from everything else. recognize, we've kind of created a line there called meditation, and maybe it's not such a line at all as a kind of a, what does it take to speak correctly? It takes clarity, composure, steadiness, awareness. That's meditation. What does it take to live with other people? It takes clarity, steadiness, composure. That's meditation. So let's not make that line too sharp, but okay, we are doing a special thing for this period of time. In order to do heighten certain facets, and the primary facet probably attention is one of them, and intention. Attention, that which selects a particular object, theme, sensation, to steady itself upon. Intention, a sense of what kind of activity do I do? And we're working on those. And the interesting thing, of course, is that the general trajectory is less, less, less. The less, the steadier. Less details, less data, steadier. Steadiness isn't the be-all and end-all of everything, but it's exceptionally helpful while we do these practices. Steadying attention. Because if attention is darting around, what happens is that everything we touch, we feel. Everything attention touched by feels. When it feels, reactions start happening. Things start stirring. The Chithurst's got more and more stuff to actually, handle, making it more tricky. And every attention then, if it's jumping around, well, why it's jumping around, what it's seeking, to do something, to get something done, to remember something, to organise something, have something, to taste something, to think of something, to have a chat. Intention is jumping around with it. To do it. So you get quite stirred up, agitated. And we have to learn how to moderate those two qualities. Clearly, in much of our lives, attention does move around. Intention does hover from this to that. But we're trying to maintain certain core intentions, which is clarity, harmlessness, honesty, non-compulsive, non-reactive, gentleness, firmness, these ethical qualities. So your intention is not led by external data, but heart. And we want to be able to discern this heart quality, our ethical centre, from just the random input of consciousness, sight, sound, touch, thought. So we're not getting tugged around. Difference between a dog and a lion, one of the many differences, you throw a stick, dog will run after it. Right? Throw a stick for a lion, the lion looks at you. He doesn't run after the stick, just looks at you. What are you doing? So you want to have eyes like a lion. Maybe. Not that jumping off. Everything that happens. Looking in the eye of a lion. So it's settled back, isn't it? It's non-compulsive. Now, finding a suitable mooring post for attention, and the Buddha recommended, highly recommended, found invaluable, mindfulness of body. And what is a body? Well, bodies, we can see them, and they experience things coming from external stimulation, cold, tactile, and internal senses, tense, relaxed, unbalanced, sick, bright, vigorous, turbulent, sluggish, internal qualities. So these are the internal and external qualities we experience in body. And they have to be held carefully, but the most important ones are the internal qualities, because these are qualities that we can really work with independent of circumstances. These are qualities that are not dependent upon sight, sound, touch. They stay with you, and they're linked, many of them, not all of them, but many of them are linked to emotional and psychological qualities. One is angry, one is upset, one is fearful, one is nervous, one is overstressed, one is underpowered. So this really gives us some sense in which we begin to work on the mind, or mental or emotional or psychological qualities as they're being manifested within the body. So then this definitely is the area we need to clear and steady and nourish, so that we feel comfortable and settled, not fragile or jelly. And attention can't do that. It can only hold a frame. So if we're really considering this internal bodily sense, there's no point focusing on particular physical aspects of the body, like your feet or your nose or your shoulders or your hands. Well, you could do, but really you want to get into that base. So sense is whole body. The whole body feels things. And if we're recognizing the imbalances, we can be very much internally up in the head, for example, quite common. To be really feel where you sense your body internally, it can be a lot of energy happening in the head, shoulders, nothing much in the back, nothing much in the legs. So the whole body enables attention to create a frame whereby the energy can begin to even itself out, find balance. Then we definitely feel more steady. And this imbalance is a function of a contracted attention, which is contracted attention is one we use a lot. That's in fact what we think attention is. It's when you focus on a book, or an idea, or a screen, or a concept, or a plan, which is certainly a form of attention, but it does involve a certain narrowing, where you have to almost ignore quite a few other things. So the Buddha doesn't seem to have ever recommended narrowing attention, but restraining it. So we say, what would be the natural form of attention for a forest dweller at the time of the Buddha? Forest dweller. No screen, no clock, no time. No words, no symbols, no letters, no figuring. Walking around the forest, whole body, sensing the space it's standing in, moving through. Because that's where the spider webs might be, or the snake might be under the foot, or the branch may be about to crack, splinter. Whole body, sensitive, whole body. So it's rather like extend your attention to a kind of a span that would be approximately a relaxed arm's length. It's like this kind of degree. You recognise from the body's point of view, anything inside this zone is my business. Outside of that, it's the mind's business. to figure out what's coming here. I sense something like that, quite a wide span, but not definitely contained, you know, and that we lessen the visual impact so that we can sense things. So the visual impression, which can go quite a long way, is restrained, and we sense just the body sensing what's happening in the space external, around me, internal, within me. How am I moving through space? How am I sitting in, what's the space I'm sitting in? And definitely you can be very attentive to that. And I would suggest that that is the fundamental focus for what we call this meditation experience. Because one thing it does, it gives you a kind of a place where your attention can steady, and it's not contracted. You don't have to tighten it. It kind of, you might have to actually keep opening it. And because normally your attention is so visually dominated onto things that are reasonably close to the face. So it's a little bit further, softening the visual focus. And for that you can then sense the entire body as a unity, as a sensitive thing, and the sense of how it's being affected by what's around, outside, inside, without shuttling. You know, to go outside and inside, you're at the edge of your skin, you could say. The edge of your skin where you can sense cool, warm, no issues here. Internally, pressure, energy's too, energy's quite vigorous or not very vigorous. And this is what I need to work with. Because based upon attention, attention links into intention. What we give attention to triggers what we're going to do, how we're going to respond. So if attention is just on that perimeter, that boundary, now externally, in these situations, there's nothing much to do, which is good. Nothing's bothering me. I've got warm clothes, food's available, nothing much to do. Focus on that. Keep focusing on it. Because normally there is quite a bit to do externally. I want to clear that so that we can focus on what we're doing internally. Because this is where it gets a little more compulsive, and where often that leaks out into external. Because there's a lot of unfinished, unresolved agitation, I start going around doing things or something or the other to somehow resolve an internal issue. Seeking comfort to resolve an internal bleakness. Seeking activity in order to resolve a certain stagnation. And again, this is just all, totally understandable, but you recognise how much do you need to do externally in order to make it possible to do this internal steadying, clearing. And returning to that focus, that wide focus. Again, it's not infinitely wide, it's got a certain limit to it. I can stay within that. Yeah, I can walk, I can stand, I can sit, I can recline, I can move around, I can move around the monastery with other people, stay within that. May you be well, I'm staying in my bubble, and let me know if you need anything. Tap on it. Otherwise, you can stay within that. You can abide within that. Although you stay with that course of actions you can do, need to do, sweeping, cleaning, eating, so forth. But it's that chosen action. Intention is then quite clear, steady, not coming from a place of unknowing or ignorance. So with the intentional aspect, it's sort of doing less. Doesn't mean not doing anything, but doing less. Because how much intentionality, how much impulse, how much mental do it comes from just unresolved psychological, emotional issues. Which, again, being sympathetic to it, okay, can you do it? Can you just, as another way to resolve those, and then the intention, we steer that towards, definitely there's something to do here, which is let's do the lingering, let's do the grounding, let's do the opening, let's do the warm-heartedness, let's do the compassion, let's do the patience, let's do the, these heart qualities, do those as is necessary, as a response to what one's experiencing. And these responses don't take you away from dealing, holding. In fact, they're necessary in order to shake off the confusion, reactivity, defensiveness, grasping that affects citta, heart. So we do that which is needed to undo, to make it possible to undo. Attention, intention or impulse to it. And you have this other aspect, heart, it's receptivity, we're sensitive. And that's quite a poignant term, isn't it? You don't want to be insensitive, but sensitivity brings feeling. Feeling starts to jump and surge and push and rock. There's another quality in there, in that heart sensitivity, called knowingness or awareness. Sensitive, but also we're sensitive because there is this open, receptive. And that's what, by lingering, by stabilizing attention, by calming and steadying intention, this knowingness can come to the fore. Because the reactivity has been subdued. Therefore knowingness comes in, awareness comes in. Okay, that's a difficult feeling, painful feeling. Let's just take some time with that. And what's needed. Particularly as the feeling that's most malleable and indeed most continually problematic is of a mental nature. Physical feeling you can only do so much with. Mental feeling, the aim is you can do a lot with that. and that will lead to your liberation. So mental feelings, psychological, emotional, feeling frazzled, feeling depleted, and an unpleasant feeling. Which can create a lot of reactivity, desperation, even oppression, feeling completely overwhelmed, trapped. Okay, it's just coming to those, recognizing any of those places that occur. Let's return to sensitive to the entire body in that frame I've referred to. Sensitive to the entire body. Take a few breaths. Let the breath be long and complete. Okay. Yeah. Just by shifting attention, you're off the hot spot. Still feeling the energies of feeling overwhelmed or saturated or fed up. But now you've got another tide of feeling coming in, which is steadying, calming, grounded, and that wave begins to soften and soothe the wave of emotional, psychological dukkha. That's the way it works. And it works without a lot of belief. It works without a lot of intellectual knowledge. It works without a lot of me getting into it. In fact, there's something selfless about it. I have to really, I'm not open to things that I can't, personally, don't like very much at all. And see things that I'm really disappointed by. I can't find a place to put it, the horrors I receive in, news. I just don't know where to put it. Domestic tragedies and people just get shattered by it all. Because, without being condemning, because citta hasn't been developed. It'd be nice if the world could be wonderful and peaceful and be happy and comfortable and get on with each other and nobody had any pain, but that isn't going to happen. It'd be nice, maybe, if things all went exactly the way I like it, but that's not going to happen either, realistically. So what could be done is steadying attention, finding a frame which will not dismiss that experience or blame that experience. It doesn't do anything like that, it just holds the frame. And sensitive to that embodied experience, feeling grounded, steadied, and gentle tide moving in, kind of moving against the tide of despair or frustration. Something more serene and equanimous. And all this, because there is awareness, if we stay with that experience, then we stay with that experience. As understanding, discernment, wisdom arises. Now, to stay with it means you're present. So, I'm a set of words, but so I don't want to stay with it. I want to find something else. Again, maybe that's all you can do right now. But ideally, developing it to the point when you can, when the citta, that frame of attention, the mindfulness, steady enough to be able to hold unpleasant feeling. And through the holding, steady holding, and the non-contracting awareness of attention, and the non-reaction to fix it and change it and get over it and blame somebody, and the non-doing that, something else can come through. There's the restraint, isn't it? Something else can come through of a wiser, deeper tide. You think, that is not me. Oh wow, maybe all that was worthwhile in order to recognize that not me reality. But you contemplate, how do I get stuck? You know? And just look at it in terms of attention. I would guess, why I said myself, attention contracts onto a particular detail. And it gets I can get stuck on something. And something wrong with me, something wrong with them, shouldn't be doing it. Just get stuck on this little thing. You're stuck there. Stop it. Just calm down. Because its attention would come to very much to the level of symbols and concepts. You know, the interpretation. It's not the sound that bothers me, actually. It's a retreat. They shouldn't be using the chainsaw that bothered me. It shouldn't be. So I got that shouldn't be concept. The sound has become this idiot operating a chainsaw outside my kuti in the middle of a meditation retreat. And then what kind of brainless nitwit does that? And so and it gets stuck, doesn't it? Getting to the detail. Wait a minute. Just open your attention. What you realise really touching sound, not pleasant sound. Idiot's gone. Retreat's gone. Sound, unpleasant. Yeah. Okay. You don't get that attention grabbing hold of it and the intention getting all snarly and upset about it. You maintain that. Once it retracts, you get into the details. And there's a huge amount of energy, and a huge amount of potential for getting into these details. We love it. You know, partly because our literary culture, you're adding things, contracting things, coming to conclusions. That's what the whole lot of our education is about, detail, isn't it? And it's not that there shouldn't be detail, but just when is that retraction so compulsive in order to get a reading of something, my attention narrows in order to get a reading of it. But do you need a reading? Of a sound? No, you know what you need to know. You don't like it. You don't need to be a genius to figure that out. Okay. And she's doing something that really annoys me, disappoints me. You know, and she's the boss, she's the manager, and she's doing something stupid, it annoys me. In that position, she'd be concept. Focus the attention, out come the claws. What about just being? You know, actions, behaviours, senses, sensitive to that. Holding in the body, or that feeling, the exasperation or the disappointment or whatever. Why does that have to come into me? Why does somebody else's behaviour have to come into me? Become Well, you idiot, you brought it in. You grabbed hold of it and took it in. That's how it got into you. If you keep out there, it doesn't have to get in. And that's the Buddha when he talked about, mindfulness immersed in the body. It says like, you get a lightweight, flimsy door. You throw a ball of wool at it, it flies open. This is an undeveloped mind. You get a stern, steady, firm oak door. You throw a rock at it, it doesn't move. This is mindfulness of body. Mara doesn't get in. So he recognises kind of we call internal external. Actually, they're not really absolutely true. Internal external. That's the way it appears. But what's occurring is, attention, compulsive grasping. Something becomes internal, dependent upon grasping. Becomes external, dependent upon grasping. It's neither. It's just that which arises through the process of being conscious. No, in fact, no boundaries to it. That's why it's so confusing and difficult. You create the boundary, body, steady, enough space in there, feel the feeling, and use that very steady and simple and non-contracted. It's a fairly restful form of attention. It's not heady. And then you can walk with it. You can stand with it. You can move around with it. You're not constricted to a sitting position even, or to narrow. You can move around in it, maintaining it. And sometimes that's why we do walking meditation, why it's so helpful, is just, there's certain qualities that need to be moved through. Breathing can move through them. That helps to move the energy through these patterns, these psychologies in emotion, but also walking moves energies through, and helps just to stop things clogging and contracting. And then we begin to get some insight. You realise, certain assumptions get made so fundamentally, so almost involuntary assumptions, that act as the foundation. People should be something. Well, what? Life should be something. What? There's such a thing as justice. What? I should be able to live forever or not die. What? Death is a tragedy. What? I'm in here. What? You take these assumptions away, understand them. Then, this is just uncertainties, fears, needs, wishes, moving around. Remove the assumptions. Maybe it's like this now. Is there faith? Not in something that isn't here yet. Not in something that could be here. Not in something you wish was here. Is there faith in something that is here, that needs to be nourished? This is our inquiry, and time to cultivate, time to listen to, time to nourish.